My goal today is to tell you a little bit more about two astonishingly important figures in the history of our instrument who were both 20th century artists, completely 20th century artists. Emanuel Feuermann, born in 1902, and Videography, born in 1903. So I'm going to keep it chronological, and I'll do the best I can to get through the material I have in the amount of time I have. It's clear that I have lots more material at home and even with me that I'm going to be able to share with you, but we'll work with what time we have. Emanuel Feuermann was born in November of 1902 in a town called Kolomea, which is probably part of Poland. I've never really looked very carefully at that. But he lived in an area called the Pale Settlement, which was, he was Jewish, and Jews were only allowed to live in certain areas in Eastern Europe. And this was one of them. He was one of, if I remember correctly, I know of 3 children in the family. He had an older brother who started out playing the violin and at a very early age became recognized as a young virtuoso. And I'm going to tell you the impact that had on their lives. Feuermann came next, and there was a younger sister named Sophie, who plays in the picture a little bit also. The father, whose first name I don't recall, was a very bad cellist, let's put it that way. And with the rise of young Zygmunt, was totally devoted to the fortunes of this rising star. So we're going to start off by, I'm going to just show you a picture of the 2 brothers. Here it comes, okay? So this is 1915. Emmanuel, or Munio, as he was his nickname, what everybody who knew him called him, M-U-N-I-O, Munio, was 13, then 12 or 13, wearing a sailor suit and probably short pants, but I can't tell. And his rising star younger brother, who looks a little bit, when I look at it, like Ujo Ricci, but a different person, was already quite well known as a young violinist, as star violinist. And what happened is that, by the way, this photograph and a lot of the stuff that we are able to get comes from one of 2 very fine biographies of Feuermann. If you're more interested, I recommend them to you. The more recent one is written by a British woman named Jeanette Moreau. I think it's with 2 R's in the middle, M-O-R-R-E-A-U, but don't hold me to that. The earlier one, which was the first full biography of Feuermann, was written by a man, I think he lives in California, named Seymour Itzkoff, I-T-Z-K-O-F-F. And they're both important. When Jeanette Moreau was doing research for her book on Emanuel Feuermann, she interviewed everybody she could get a hold of at all who had any connection to Feuermann. I was one of those people. She was at that point living in Cambridge, Massachusetts as a fellow at the Radcliffe Institute. And the conversation I had with her was very interesting because I told her that I had studied with Piotr and with Casado, whom she more or less quickly dismissed as not important. She was totally, absolutely, totally devoted to Feuermann as the great god of cello, singly. Worth, maybe Casals deserved some credit too, as having shown the way. But Feuermann was the person who was the culmination, probably alternative of how the cello should be played. Well, there's something wonderful about Feuermann and something to recommend a very high regard to, which I think you'll share with me by the time I finish. But there's something in the personal history of how this happened that I need to share with you, both because it's charming and because it plays an important secondary effect on the rise of Emanuel Feuermann. This is an excerpt from Seymour Itzkoff's book. It seems that the Feuermann family moved to Vienna. At the time this happened, Munio was 8, and I think that, excuse me, Sigmund was 8, and young Munio was 3 or 4 years younger, I would guess. So here's the name of the father, Meyer, and spelled M-A-I-E-R. Meyer Feuermann, who I said was a rather mediocre cello player, came with his wife and 3 children to Vienna. And I think, like a lot of people who are trying to get away from somewhere, they're just happy to arrive somewhere else, and they often arrive with no resources at all. This is the case. I mean, I think barely they had enough to eat. Anyway, this is the story. In November, and I'm going to guess it's about 1905 or 6, one of Meyer's summer associates told him about a cello opening in the Tonkünstler Orchestra. It's an orchestra that still exists in Vienna. Meyer was not a member of the union, and he knew how nepotism or favoritism for members of the family usually predetermined the outcome of the auditions. Nevertheless, since the job was civil service and since the Tonkünstler Orchestra, while not the equal of the Vienna Philharmonic or the Opera Orchestra, was one of the best musical groups in the city, he would audition before the orchestra committee. He had trepidations because while he felt he was competent for the quality of playing required, most of these instrumentals were a notch above him in polish and elan. They, however, were lackadaisical Viennese, laid back, and he was determined and intrepid Coloméan. What he had to do was to get by the audition. The day of the audition, he set forth not only with his cello, but also with Sigmund, violin in his case, in hand. At the hall, it seemed that half the cellists in Vienna had also applied for the position. The auditions went quickly, and though he had to undergo a few taunts from the other waiting cellists, "Mister, the little boy needs a job too," he eventually found himself next in line. The whole thing seemed perfunctory and deflating, judging from the faces who left the audition room. As he entered the large bare room with Sigmund, one of the 3 judges looked up and called sharply, "Leave the boy outside." Meyer practically ran forward in a most deferential and confidentially obsequious manner, implored them to listen to his son, stating that the boy was an undiscovered genius and that as the father he deeply desired their opinion, since they were distinguished musicians of a distinguished orchestra. They were both amazed and angry. Either the father had fantastic chutzpah, a good Jewish word that means arrogance, gall, and had something further up his sleeve, or else he was a crackpot not to be thrown out immediately. Yet as the father unabashedly persisted, and since they were tired and bored, they hesitated. It might be amusing when you hear the last movement of the Mendelssohn played by the child. The concertmaster of the orchestra was one of the 3 judges and was especially curious. To silence the father in his non-stop torrent of words, they finally agreed to let the boy play. Of course, this would never happen today. But this is what happened. Sigmund, not having said a word during all this time, scurried to his violin case. "Can you really play the Mendelssohn Concerto, little boy?" The concertmaster inquired as he examined Sigmund's new 3/4 size violin, which had been provided to them. "Oh, yes, sir," the boy replied. "I can play all 3 movements." Meyer quickly interrupted, "And he's hardly 7 years old. Actually, he was 8. You get the picture. Sigmund started to play with a striking burst of energy. The musicians were silent except to exchange quick glances with each other. When Sigmund finished the movement, one of them arose and went to the door, telling the waiting cellist to enter the room and quietly and listen. He ran back to his seat and called, "Play it again, little boy." Sigmund looked at his father hesitantly and began to play once more. The father had not said a word. He stood stiffly against the wall, the only sign of emotion, his darting eyes as he watched the listeners while his son played. In a few moments, to the murmur of amazement, it was over. The audition for the cello position was over, too. It could not be allowed that the trustee, namely the father, of such a rare jewel should go without a job. Feuermann Sr. henceforth was cellist in the Tonkünstler Orchestra without ever having had to open his cello case. Quite remarkable. And I think that's true. If not, it's a great story. Anyway, now the reason that I say this is important is because all of the focus of the family was on Sigmund, this young genius, young prodigy. And Feuermann, our Feuermann, who started to play the cello, nobody paid attention to him. But here's this little boy, a few years younger than a virtuoso prodigy violinist. And what does he do? He learns all the violin concertos on the cello, because that's the music he hears his brother practicing. And nobody's bothering him, which is a wonderful thing, because the parents, the father particularly, is obviously domineering and overbearing and manipulating and whatever. He's left alone. Well, what happens next is that by the age of about 10 or 11, everybody begins to notice that he's good. And the musical circles of Vienna begin to say, oh, well, we should help this boy too. Somebody buys him a cello, somebody provides him. In the meantime, the father has a job, so they have a roof over their heads, they can live. And when he's about 14 years old, 13 or 14 years old, everybody says, well, you have to now go study with Klengel. So let me say what that's about. Julius Klengel was the son of the former principal cellist of the Gewandhaus Orchestra in Leipzig, which had been founded by Felix Mendelssohn in the 1840s. We are now in the 1912, something like that. And Julius, the second cellist of that musical family, was considered a really fine cellist, and was named the principal cellist of the Gewandhaus Orchestra, which position he held for some time. But it seemed along the way that Julius developed a reputation for teaching. And by the time Emanuel Feuermann was at that age, he was well established in Leipzig at the conservatory there as one of the destination teachers in that part of the world. The other, about that same time or a little bit later, was the German cellist Hugo Becker, who taught in Berlin, PECKDR. So the two of them were kind of the lodestones for young cellists. You go to Becker or you go to Klengel. Well, from Vienna, young Feuermann made his way to Klengel. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Klengel when we get to Piagorsky in a while, because Piagorsky ended up there too. And the thing is that Klengel, I can say this much, was a very warm man who had this great ambition for doing things for his students, but kind of left them alone. Said, if you want to have a better vibrato, why don't you listen to this other student? And he most of the time sat at the piano and didn't play the cello. There are recordings of Klengel, which I have at home, I didn't bring them here, in which he plays with not very big sound and what we would consider a totally outdated kind of use of the sound. There's a recording of him that's most known think so much anymore. So, Feuermann studied with him, and I'm talking a lot because I'm trying to compress a lot of history into a very short time. By the time he was 16 or 17, after he'd been with Wang for 2 years, everybody understood that there was nobody in the world who could play the cello as well. The ability that this young man had to play was just jaw-dropping. And at that point, I'm not going to pull up the name, there was a very fine cellist who was the teacher in Cologne, Germany, who was retiring. And Klengel, who had his connections all over Germany, said, look, you have to take young Emanuel Feuermann. So they did, but he arrived at the age of 17, and when he arrived there, he tried to go into the faculty lounge. He said, you're a student, you can't come in here. Well, that slowly changed, but he was not given the title of professor. He was just allowed to be a teacher there. And of course, it was very not so easy if you're 16 or 17 years old and your students are in their 20s. And you can play circles with that. So that lasted for a while, and the Cologne connection was very important for Feuermann's life, because that's where eventually he was, when a young, very super player moves into a community, anybody who loves music wants to know him. And very easy to attract the attention of the young person are rich families with beautiful instruments to loan and things like that. And this was very much the case in Germany at that time. And so he was very familiar with the rich families of Cologne, particularly the Jewish rich families. And that is where he eventually met a young girl, maybe 8 or 9 years younger than me, named Eva, who later on became his wife. And I'm just going to jump over all that, just to say that he began to play concerts. He went to Berlin by around 1920 or 21, and he had some concert activity. It's not so easy to get cello concerts, even if you're good. And but as a way of kind of making a calling card for everybody, he made a recording, which I'm going to play you now, which was what you had to be able to play to prove that people should give you attention. This is a recording. There is, by the way, a brand new album. It's just out last week, called Emanuel Feuermann, Unexpected Discoveries. This was put together by my colleague and both former students at Videography, named Terry King. I'll tell you more about him when we come to Videography, because he's done the same thing with our teacher. This is a collection of the complete recordings that Feuermann made before 1926, which was when the microphones started. All of these recordings are done with a horn. Maybe you've seen an old-fashioned Victrola with something that looks like a squash flower or a great big cornucopia. And that's where, when you're playing it, you put the 78 on there and the sound comes out of that. But the opposite way is there was no microphone. So they had a reverse kind of thing where you would play close to the horn and that would capture your sound. So this is a recording of the piece that was the signature piece, and it was the first part of Sarasate's Zigeunerweise, Gypsy Airs. We're going to listen to that now. And while David's putting that in, I'm going to tell you just exactly when that was made. It was made on the 8th of April, 1922. So at that point, Feuermann is 19 years old. Okay? And I think we will be first. Well, we're not going to hear much music played this morning by Wang. It's slow, because he had, obviously, the fastest gun in the West. I mean, he was very, very agile as a player, which you heard near the beginning. It was just runs, he just goes flying up the A string and doesn't miss the center of every note he plays. And he's 19 years old. Okay, the next thing to comment on is that the sound is very, very centered and very focused and very even. With a very, what I would call, normal vibrato. It doesn't really try to sound like something special with just kind of the normal equipment of a fine player. By the late 1920s, so this is 1922, by I guess around 1928 or 29 in Berlin, he was appointed as the cello teacher at the conservatory, at the Hochschule. And I mentioned yesterday that I had lessons from somebody who had become later the principal cellist in Los Angeles, Correa, who studied with him in Berlin at that period. And he had very, very fine students from there. But then the world changed rather in a very terrible way and very quickly. In the beginning of 1933, the Nazi Party led by Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany. And one of the agenda items of the Nazi Party was already very clearly, the Jews are destroying our country. And we have to get rid of them in all walks of life. They are doing things destroying our German culture. This was the attitude of the Nazis. So in 1933, did that happen? Let's this. The Hochschule fired overnight. Let's enlarge it a little bit. All Jewish members of the faculty and dismissed all Jewish students. And this letter, which I will translate to you, is written on the stationery of the conservatory, the Staatliche Hochschule, on the 8th of April 1933, so not even a month after the Nazis come to power. It says, very honored, Herr Professor, Sir Professor, according to the authorization of the right of the federal, or whatever you want to call it, the governmental commissar for the Prussian Ministry of Science, Art, and Culture, I immediately put you on vacation from now until the end of your contract, which maybe was just for the rest of the year. With high regard, signed by this person. You know, very all cloaked in the language of normality and trying to present itself as something very normal. He was dismissed. Down the lane, just down further on, I don't have to change this, but I'll just tell you. These were the reasons given for the dismissal of some others. Somebody named Oskar Daniel, a Polish Jew not fully in command of the German language. Franz Ludwig Kurt, a Jew holding 2 jobs. Friedel Rubenstein, follower of Kestenberg, I don't know who that is, probably a communist, a cultural Bolshevist, Jewess, Leonid Kreutzer. 12 professors petitioned against his renewal of contract because of various occurrences. Hugo Strelitzer, who, by the way, found his way to Los Angeles and was important teaching there when I was very young. Shabby character. Emanuel Feuermann, intolerable Jew, etc. Proposals for acceptable replacements were made in the document, And somebody was suggesting to replace, but Feuermann. Not only they were dismissed, here's some other names that you will recognize. Alexander Zemlinsky, Hugo Rudel, who became, with a different first name, the director of the City Opera in New York. Kurt Sachs, very famous musicologist. During that year, 33 teachers at the conservatory lost their jobs. And a lot of the students just left. And so anyway, it was not really a very good thing that had happened. While we have the camera on, I'm just going to show you quickly a picture of what Feuermann looked like in 1930. This is just before, oops, this way. I guess we have to enlarge something. Okay. It's like Casals before him. He had hair. Okay? So what I want to do with the remaining time is to play you a little bit from the discography of Feuermann, some things that I think are worth paying attention to. In the 1930s, he was already very, very well known, but he was trying to build a career wherever he could. And he had gone out of Germany. And let's see. Okay, so the Haydn D major concerto, which we all know and play these days, was actually mostly played in that other version by the man that Casals had gone to visit.
Geber edition?
Yeah, the Geber, yeah. Okay, so, but somehow or other, Feuermann found a set of parts that had been published with the original arrangement, the French ones, and Bolos and ones. So he came in England to London to make this recording. It was made, I'm trying to find the year of the recording there. Here it is. Recorded in 1935. So Feuermann is 32 years old at that point. Recorded in London, and Seymour Ixtoff in his book tells the story of that recording session. Feuermann arrived. The conductor was Malcolm Sargent, Sir Malcolm Sargent. Very, very proud of his distinction and importance. Feuermann sits down, and the orchestra starts to play. It was, you know, this was a big deal in the 1930s for anybody to be allowed to record a cello. Well, he sits there, and apparently some of his students were in the control room listening to this, so it's documented what happened. But Feuermann, when he was supposed to start after the introduction, just sat there. Malcolm Sargent, who was very important, looks at this young German Jewish fellow and says, "Why are you playing?" Feuermann looks up and says, "Would you please tune the orchestra?" Now, I'm going to let you hear the beginning of the recording that ensued. It was a pickup orchestra. Nobody knew who Feuermann was. It was just, it was a job. So, it was an attempt to tune the orchestra. And then Feuermann said, could they try again? And so there was kind of consternation, and Sargent called for an intermission. Feuermann went off. Some of his students said, "He's a very famous man. Be careful what you're doing, and you have to be polite to him." He came back and said, Your Highness, Sir Thomas, Sir Malcolm, or whatever he was trying to make happy sounds anyway. The recording was finally made, and it stands as a testament to the astonishing playing that he was doing already at that point. So we're going to go right to track 1. And I'll start at just at the very beginning. When we get there, what's happening? Back here. It's still not really very well tuned, but it's better than the start. We're trying forward now. And against this shoddy beginning comes pristine, clear, but Every note has a pure center, a ringing tone. I guess if I were going to be very fussy, I'd say a few notes with just a tiny bit out of tune. But that's not even fair, because of course this was done in one take, and that's the way he played. I have relatively other different release that Terry King managed to find recordings that Feuermann made later that decade in Japan, in which he recorded the Bach Adagio, it's the well-known arrangement for cello, and he recorded it in 1939. No, I'm wrong. It was done in New York. Okay. There are other recordings that I didn't bring. There are 4 takes, and if you listen to it carefully, they are almost identical, with one note a little bit more this way and one note a little bit more that way, and he never released it. Wasn't good enough, he thought. So, but what we are going to go to now, which is something some of you have seen before. This is a video that was made in, let's see if I can find the year. It was done in August, in 1939 in Hollywood, California, where he would come teach for the summers. And so this is also on this disc, which is combined DVD and CD. And this is, he recorded 2 songs. Now, when you look at him playing here, he's going to look very kind of zombie-like. And people who've seen it, who knew his playing, said, oh, he really moved some, you know. He was just told, sit still, it's better for the camera so it doesn't jerk around. But this is a famous piece by David Popper, the spinning song. And what's wonderful about this film is that you can, they have a lot of different angles. You can see under his hands, under his bow hand, and it's awfully good. So without further ado, let's turn that on. Okay? cellist who's in his absolute prime. He's 36, 37 years old. And in the next 3 years, he hooks up with Archer Rubinstein and Yasha Heifetz. He makes some wonderful recordings of piano trios. The violist William Primrose joins them. They make a recording of the Mozart Divertimento for String Trio. Primrose and Feuermann make a recording of the duo by Beethoven with two eyeglasses. He's getting really important concerts in this country. He becomes a U.S. citizen. He's married. He has a little daughter. A charming picture of her. Show this picture. This is taken around 1940 of him playing with a cigarette in his mouth for his baby daughter. And he plays with the New York Philharmonic, with Toscanini, he plays with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and everything seems to be really, really going toward an astonishing and very long career. In 1942, he's diagnosed with a common ailment that say in my life I've suffered from. It's for anybody who sits too much of the time, they get something called hemorrhoids, which are little blisters in the butt. Okay? And now there are all kinds of treatments for one sort or another, creams you can put on to make the swelling go down, but at its worst it's pretty painful. And you really don't feel like sitting down except on maybe something that looks like an inner tube, a cushion where it's supporting you but you don't feel that pressure. So Feuermann had that, and he was German speaking and living in New York, and somehow or other he was suggested to go to a certain doctor to have this taken care of. And in a private German-speaking clinic in New York City, he was comfortable with the language, he spoke English, but this was, seemed like the right thing to do. Long story and sad story, short. He was given a surgery for it. He was not tested for allergies of various anesthesias, and it turned out that he was profoundly allergic to morphine. The surgery was done. He died 7 days later. That's it. Done. Age 40, age 39. So the career of this colossally important artist was finished. There was a large funeral in New York, and it's quoted that at the funeral, Toscanini, everybody, in all the importance, it was an incredible shock to the world of music. Toscanini came in the middle, stood up and yelled, "Murder!" And that's what it felt like. It was just like this incredible artist had been robbed of what was due him and what he could give everybody. He, by the way, he was a tough teacher. I would say scornful of the weaknesses of everybody else, because compared to them as a cellist, he was so superior. Bernard Greenhouse, who died just a year or so ago, whom I knew very well, told me one time, he went to have lessons with Feuermann. Feuermann, by the way, Greenhouse already was in his 20s, he had a good job, he was the principal cellist for the CBS orchestra, radio orchestras were important, and he bought himself a very nice automobile. Feuermann loved automobiles. Greenhouse came for his lesson and said, "Let's go take a ride," and they spent an hour driving an automobile around. I don't even know where we got a lesson. But Greenhouse said to me that he observed the lesson. Now, I have no way of knowing, but I have a suspicion it was his own lesson. Just don't know. But he observed a lesson at which the student played something. It was a difficult passage, and Feuermann said to him, "You know, maybe if you practice that for 2 or 3 years, you'll get it." "No, you'll never get it." Lovely man. Okay. And actually, in the work he did with Heifetz, somebody who I knew got to know pretty well, He was not going to take any guff from Yasha Heifetz. He could play just as well as Heifetz on his own instrument. Anyway, I'm going to conclude my portion of this morning by playing you a recording you've probably not heard of a transcription of, so this is the one just put out. So this is an arrangement by Feuermann himself of an adagio and allegro from the Handel organ concerto in G minor. And it was recorded in 1939 in December for RCA Victor, and it takes about 7.5 minutes to play, but it's worth spending the time to hear because you've not heard it. This is what I would say, for me, epitomizes what I admire so much about Feuermann's playing. It's incredible honesty, purity, and mastery. And I would say, toward the end of his life, he did a series of 5 concerts in New York with something called the National Orchestral Association, a training orchestra for young players, which got a lot of attention by presenting concerts in Carnegie Hall of famous artists and accompanying them in concertos. He played, I think, 17 different works for cello and orchestra, which was unheard of at the time. Some of them happened to be recorded, I think with his permission, as just live performances on glass discs in Carnegie Hall, and some of these have been issued now, including Reiter Concerto, D'Albert Concerto, various other things. Not all of them have, I guess, survived. They're very, very interesting playing, and it's, what I would say is that if I think a little bit about Feuermann, that in the Romantic literature, he was so focused on the control issues and on the purity of it, that sometimes he didn't relax emotionally. And I would say that when I listen to I adore his playing, but when I listen to the very end, I begin to feel, oh, if only he'd lived longer, because he was beginning to relax about that aspect of his playing. And some of the earlier recordings are very kind of straight out. But this one I think is quite special. Let's listen to it. That was purchased by Aldo Pariso, your teacher, and eventually sold by him to the Japan Foundation, which owns it still, and it was the instrument used for several years by Stephen Isserlis, and I'm not quite sure who's using it. Do you know? Oh, he's playing on the
Yes, two now.
cello that belongs to the Royal Academy of Music, that was Kiyonin Asuja's cello, and that is was played during her lifetime by Tsang. I just saw him last week, so I don't know. I think he had to give it back.
No, he made recording with both of them for different pieces.
These recordings were made with that strap.
Yeah, but he's made other recordings where where it's a two cello thing, and he plays one part on one cello and one on the other cello.
Oh. Well,
So I think he's still got the
yeah,
Japanese.
okay. Anyway, here we are. Some of you know more than I do. That's good. Okay, we're done with that. Yes. So we're going to put Mr. Feuermann in the rest now while we go on to the last person I'm covering in my visit